Zenobia was never a rebel, a strategic collapse of the imperial myth. Introduction. The story we're told about Zenobia, Queen of Palmyra, alleged rebel against Rome, is not just flawed, it is structurally fantastical. This paper presents a comprehensive dismantling of the rebellion narrative, using simulation logic, historical precedent, strategic audit, and cognitive override. Each insight exposes Zenobia not as a defiant outsider, but as a potentially trusted Roman agent and/or asset embedded within imperial power and choreography. 1. The curious death of Odenathus. The myth begins with silence. Zenobia's rise begins with the sudden and suspicious death of her husband, Odenathus, in 267 CE. He had just been declared corrector of the East by Rome, a rare title granting sweeping military and administrative authority. This wasn't ceremonial. It was earned through military and political conquest. Odenathus had repelled Persian invasions, stabilized the eastern frontier, and restored Roman prestige in a region on the brink of collapse. By every strategic measure, he was one of the empire's most valuable allies. And yet, his supposed assassination, no corpse ever produced, no forensic confirmation, along with that of his son from a previous marriage, was never seriously investigated. No imperial outrage, no retaliation, no forensic inquiry. The silence is and was deafening. Rome's failure to pursue justice for a man of such tactical and political importance suggests not neglect, but imperial complicity and collusion. His supposed death, of which his body was never recovered nor studied, wasn't inconvenient, it was useful. Oddly enough, and perhaps conveniently enough, Zenobia and her son Vabilathus were not killed by the same conspirators that killed her husband and his son. They, miraculously, were spared. This wasn't a political purge. It was a surgical removal of one line, leaving another intact. It positioned her, and her son, perfectly to assume controlled power under the guise of regency. The empire didn't resist her rise. It controlled her rise to power. 2. The grain lever, strategic control of Egypt. By 269–270 CE, Zenobia had annexed Egypt and controlled Alexandria's ports and granaries, the lifeline of Rome's food supply. During a period of extreme instability, this should have triggered panic, retaliation, or collapse. It did not. Rome's restraint is not evidence of weakness. It is proof of coordination with a potential Roman asset. No empire allows a foreign queen to hold control over its food supply unless she is already embedded as their agent and/or asset. 3. Historical precedent, Rome's sensitivity to grain disruption. History shows that even minor disruptions to grain flow sparked riots and military action. Sextus Pompeius' blockade in the 1st century BCE forced Augustus to negotiate under duress. During the Antonine period, Rome responded swiftly to protect Egyptian grain routes from even minor threats. Zenobia's control of Egypt during a far more fragile era should have provoked a full-scale imperial response, considering her power over 1/3 of Rome's grain and food supplies. That it didn't is a glaring contradiction. 4. Simulation logic, collapse in just a few turns. In turn-based strategy simulations like Civilization or Humankind, food is foundational. Losing control of it, even for a few turns, triggers cascading failure. Population decline, military starvation, economic collapse, civil unrest, and starvation. Diplomatic vulnerability. Zenobia's control of Egypt, if truly oppositional, would have ended Rome in mere months. That she didn't exploit this leverage proves she was not acting as a rebel. She behaved like a Roman asset. 5. Strategic restraint, mission discipline, not mercy. Zenobia did not burn grain, redirect shipments, or delay exports as the rebel she claimed she was. She held the power to collapse the empire and chose not to use that immense power. This restraint is not weakness, rather, it is mission discipline. Her actions mirror those of a trusted covert operative maintaining stability through obfuscation, not a revolutionary seeking collapse. 6. Gendered trust paradox, Rome trusted a foreign woman. The empire was notoriously paranoid, especially during the crisis. Emperors were assassinated for minor infractions or the mere whisper of rebellion against the empire. Yet Zenobia, a foreign queen and a woman, was allowed to control the empire's food supply and mint her own money, usurping Rome's financial authority over the area without triggering an immediate Roman response. This violates every known historical pattern of Roman behavior at the time. Women in Rome were categorically excluded from holding public office, serving in the Senate, commanding armies, or exercising formal political power. Even elite Roman women were confined to influence through marriage, patronage, or behind-the-scenes diplomacy. The idea of a woman openly wielding sovereign authority over strategic assets, grain, coinage, territory, was not just rare. It was structurally and historically forbidden. And yet Zenobia did exactly that. Her gender, far from being what was regarded at the time as a liability, became the signal of trust so profound that it breaks even basic simulation logic, let alone strategic logic and historical precedent. The only plausible explanation is that she was embedded within the imperial system as a Roman asset. Her survival, her sovereignty, and her silence all point to coordination, not defiance. 7. Cognitive override. Intelligence as proof of coordination. Zenobia was categorically brilliant. She spoke multiple languages, studied Roman law, and understood strategic geography. But brilliance alone isn't the point. It's what her brilliance enabled. These were not just signs of education. They were the exact qualifications Rome would require in a trusted proxy and/or foreign agent. Her legal fluency, linguistic range, and geopolitical insight made her structurally perfect as an embedded asset. If she were truly rebelling, she would have recognized the power she held and used it, especially her control of Egypt's grain, of which she could have used to collapse the Roman Empire. Her intelligence and her talents makes her restraint even more damning to the rebellion narrative. She knew exactly what she was doing and what she wasn't doing. And what she wasn't doing was collapsing the empire. That's not rebellion. That's coordination. 8. Simulation audit. Foreign asset control is a known risk. In strategic simulations, allowing a foreign entity to control critical assets is a known recipe for collapse. No competent player, or empire, would allow it unless the entity was already aligned. Zenobia's control of Egypt violates simulation logic, which means it violates strategic plausibility. 9. Collapse cascade. The myth doesn't survive the model when modeled through simulation logic. Zenobia's rebel leads to rapid imperial collapse. Since Rome did not collapse, the model fails. The only way to reconcile the outcome is to reclassify Zenobia as potentially a trusted agent within the imperial system. Zenobia's eventual defeat by Emperor Aurelian followed a curious choreography. She was paraded through Rome in, claimed by some, golden chains, a symbolic humiliation that curiously involved gold, which was historically a recognition of royalty. Unlike true rebels who were tortured, executed, mutilated, or erased from record, Zenobia was spared. She was supposedly granted a villa in Tibur, allowed to live in comfort, and according to some sources, may have even married into the Roman elite. It makes little to no sense to allow a known rebel to potentially rebel against Roman authority again, at another time. This is not how Rome treated existential threats. It is how Rome retired assets. The empire did not fear Zenobia's return to power because it wasn't her that was truly wielding that power and control, even though it appeared as such. No regime grants a known rebel a villa and proximity to the aristocracy unless she was already embedded. Her survival was not mercy, rather, it was part of her reward for her role as a controlled rebel. Rome didn't punish Zenobia. It decommissioned her with freedom, money, land, and marriage into the Roman elite. In conclusion, Zenobia was most likely not a rebel. She was a foreign agent within Rome's imperial choreography. Her control of Egypt, her restraint, her intelligence, the empire's response, and the silence around her husband's death all point to one conclusion. Queen Zenobia was a Roman-controlled asset.